the Fan3Cast, dishing out the hottest NASCAR news and views while celebrating the Three's historic comeback. Here are your hosts, Michael Metzger and Jason Schultz.
Welcome back once again, friends, to the Fan3Cast. We're looking back at Atlanta this past weekend. And Jason, I got to just start off with, is there a track that has any worse placement for its Sprint Cup Series race than Atlanta at this point? We just had it Labor Day weekend where it was incredibly hot down there. I felt bad for a lot of the people in the stands having to endure that. Luckily, it goes into the nighttime and cools down a little bit. Now they're going to get moved to the second race of the year in March, which some have said is too cold, and we've actually had one of the races snowed out before. So what can we do about Atlanta's placement?
It's a really tough question because it's hard to say where it would work best. I think it really works in Labor Day, but it's too hot, so they can't really always keep there. Maybe have it as a chase race in October or something when it's not as hot. That might work. But at the beginning of the season, there's going to be some weather issues, like you said, and it's hard to give it a special date on the schedule because there's just none open right now, and Atlanta's a cool track. Everyone likes racing there. It's just, I don't know. Got to be on the schedule, but it's not sure where it has a perfect fit at this point.
Yeah, I guess that's the fine line that you have to kind of walk with any of these dates, because even when I was thinking about my hypothetical schedule, you have to look at places down south you assume are going to be warm in the March-April time period, but it's actually not as warm as you think it would be. So unless we had the series start completely on the West Coast and get all those races out of the way early, I don't think that you can really do too much to shake up the schedule like that.
No matter where Atlanta falls on the schedule, Kasey Kahne's going to be happy because that race and that track gave him a great shot at the championship with his win, and now that puts him into chase contention. He will be among the 16 drivers once he gets to Chicagoland, and his win did not come easy. It was very dramatic. I thought it was a phenomenal finish. Those two really tight restarts. He was nowhere near the front at first, but eventually made his way back up there, and that was just, I thought, one of the best finishes we've seen all season.
One word to describe Kahne's evening out there is determination. I listened to the team started halfway through the race, and every pit stop they were working on making adjustments to make the car a lot better for Kahne. In fact, it had one of the funnier moments when Kahne was talking about the race car, then apparently got into traffic or was racing hard, stopped talking, so complete dead silence on the radio for a good couple of minutes, and then all of a sudden he came back to mid-sentence where he had left off, which I thought was kind of funny, but he was still giving them good information about the car, and they made it as good as they can make it in the pits, and he did the rest from there.
And he sounded a little mad over the radio the last 2 weeks, so he was smiling in victory lane. I know his fans are happy, and I know a lot of weight has been lifted off his shoulders as now he's among his teammates in the chase.
And there was quite the outpouring of his teammates in victory lane, celebrating with him, getting all four Hendrick vehicles into the chase. Now, one thing that might have kept Kasey Kahne from getting into the chase was an incident between Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Busch. Now, we won't dwell on what happened there other than those two banging into each other. Then in the garage it got a little heated, but Jason, maybe you can help me out. There was no fallout from that situation, was there, by NASCAR?
No, it was definitely a all-racing incident.
Another thing that might have derailed Kasey Kahne from picking up the victory was Kevin Harvick, who utterly dominated Sunday night under the lights at Atlanta, but he came up short. It seemed to get in traffic and then was caught up in an incident near the end of the race that ruined his day. I believe finished 19th on the lead lap.
Yeah, not the greatest outcome for me. I changed my pick at last minute. Decided to go with Mr. Harvick. He was really dominant, like you said. He just was up front. He was going to win that race had it not been for the late race incident and a few restarts. So I know he was disappointed, but one of his teammates capitalized on him falling back through the field, and that was Danica Patrick, who scored a sixth place finish, which was her best career finish in the Sprint Cup Series. And I legitimately thought she had a shot to win the race right at the end. They were so tight in the restarts, and the outside lane sometimes going to go, so whoever's on the inside line usually got a really good jump. so she could have put herself right up there, right among the leaders, and it was getting close, and I was getting excited because that would have been quite the story.
It would have been quite the story indeed, and she's another driver that just kept working on her car, just being smooth, staying out of trouble the entire race, and it paid off for her. She's showing the signs that she does have the ability and the talent to put her car up near the front. It's just a matter of executing and getting those lucky breaks, which she did in Atlanta. Now, one driver that did not have a lucky break at Atlanta was her team owner, Tony Stewart, who was making his return after a 3-race absence. He drove like a madman to begin the race, going up through traffic, running 3 wide, and it looked like it might be a storybook ending for Stewart and possibly getting to victory lane, but that was not to be after contact with Kyle Busch sent him into the wall a little bit, and then unfortunately because of that contact he ended up blowing a tire. But I think the reception by the fans, by the fellow drivers, and just by everyone at the track was the best thing for Tony Stewart during this time.
Yeah, it definitely was, and for him to just be back on the track, that's going to help him, and it was a big news story all weekend, but as you know, he gets to racing and the season goes on, I think it'll still be a pretty big story, but it'll get back to normal for the number 14 team.
Some semblance of normal. I know a lot of people critiqued him for not answering specific questions about what happened earlier in August, but you got to understand it's an ongoing investigation. He really can't talk about the situation until that is wrapped up, which won't be for another couple of weeks. But I do commend him for coming out and at least making the statement, which I believe he wrote himself, and then just making himself available that way, which I think showed a lot of fans just the emotions and what Tony Stewart's going through, and probably added to how great it probably was for him to be back at the track.
Jumping into our power rankings, I don't know about Mike, but I took a big swing in who I included in the top 3. I think he's been the same drivers for the last few weeks, and they didn't have the greatest runs in Atlanta, so I changed it up. I put Matt Kenseth on top, who's been consistent. He hasn't been making too much noise, but he's been pretty consistent all season. Jimmy Johnson, who has rebounded after about a month of tough races, he's back up there and running consistent in the top 10, and that's going to only increase as the championship gets closer. And I put Kevin Harvick third, who is dominant and fast like he is every weekend. He's just on a roll right now.
I kind of kept mine the same. I did switch it up a little bit with the addition of our third place driver, but kept Jeff Gordon up there in the top. He had a really fast car. Unfortunately, he lost the tire, got 2 laps down, spent most of the race trying to get those laps up, finally got them back at the end of the race, but only could get up a few spots. Then I have Kevin Harvick, who, like you said, was fast as a bullet this past weekend, which has kind of been the story of his season so far in his first with Stewart-Haas Racing, is that he's really fast, but he just can't get the brakes to get to victory lane. And then I have Joey Logano up there too. He's another one that has been really proven to me that he's got the consistency, he's got the speed. It's just a matter of just being up front at the right time. And we're going to a track that he won at in the spring, so look for Joey Logano to be a factor when we get to Richmond this weekend. But Jason, what we have to jump into before we get into Richmond is going into the Wayback Machine, thinking back 1 year, and that's when we had the Michael Waltrip Racing scandal of Clint Bowyer purposely spinning out, or supposedly purposely spinning out, to get his teammate into the chase. What have we learned from that, or what do you think will be different this weekend?
What we learned is definitely that NASCAR is not playing around with things like that, trying to basically fix the outcome of a race, purposely spinning, wrecking, and doing stuff to help someone else and help their chance at getting a better finish. And you definitely won't see any of that ever again. The penalty MWR has almost a year ago next week, when NASCAR called a late Monday night meeting with the media to tell them that this is the biggest penalty that's ever been assessed in the sport history. So definitely NASCAR taught a lesson there. Don't do this. Don't try to cheat. You will get in trouble. And MWR definitely will have a tough weekend having to think about it the whole time, but they'll definitely want to get it out of their heads by the time the race shows up on Saturday night.
I think you got it right there. The biggest thing that we can learn is that NASCAR will not tolerate anything like that. There's also a little kind of similar situation with Front Row Motorsports and Team Penske. I don't think you're going to see any of that this weekend. Teams obviously know where that line in the sand is, and they probably, well, they'd be stupid to try to cross NASCAR and pull anything like that. And I really don't think, as Michael Waltrip Racing proved with the technology that it is now and the steps, especially that NASCAR has taken in wake of that with the spotters and crew chief communications, that you really can't get away with too much in this sport anymore that someone won't stumble upon or notice or see. So again, any team would be foolish to try to pull any moves like that. But Jason, we have a new chase for this year, which basically was a win you're in, 16 people getting into it. Do you think it lived up to the hype that it started the season with? The excitement over the kind of simplistic ability of people to get into the chase?
Absolutely. I thought the racing throughout the season was just awesome, and it's so much easier to try and figure out who's in the chase by just who wins. If you want to race, you're in. Try hard in the rest to get, the best finish possible so you can get high speed. And I think the whole idea of winning made it a lot easier to follow and for fans to feel more interested in it. And it creates not as much drama leading up to the chase, but once the 10 races start, that drama that we are used to seeing before the chase is going to be happening throughout the chase, and it's going to be increased by about a million times.
Took the words right out of my mouth. I think the drama is going to come in the chase. Like you said, normally we'd have some sort of drama coming into this race. Right now, there's some, but I don't think there's a lot of it. Mathematically, 4 drivers can still get in without a win, and then you have about 10 people that could get in if they win. Realistically, they're probably not going to win, so it's going to come down to our points people. So I think they kind of sucked a little bit of the Richmond drama out of the chase, but the important part is having the drama when you actually have everyone watching during the chase. So on that note, Jason, 2 spots left. Who do you got coming into the chase?
I'm going to go with the spots not changing hands at all. I believe Biffle and Newman are going to have great runs and lock up those spots. I know Larson's going to probably have a top 5 run like he can and like he's showing us this season, but I just don't think it'll be enough to get him in the chase. So I'm going with Newman and Biffle.
I kind of got the same thing. I think Newman's a near lock. There's if no one new wins, he can finish like 40th or something like that, and he'll be a lock in. So he doesn't have to do too much other than keep his nose clean. I am gonna, and this is gonna jump me into my pick to win. I do believe that we will have one position change place, and I am putting my chips on Clint Bowyer pulling off a victory and getting into the chase. I looked over his record at Richmond. It's pretty good. 3 career wins all across all series, 2 in the Sprint Cup Series, 17 starts, 3 top 5s, 9 top 10s, average finish of 12th. But I think the pressure is going to be really on Clint Bowyer to get into the chase, and he might try different things to pull off that victory. And he's won here before. We know he can run well there. And I think just with that whole Michael Waltrip Racing controversy 1 year later, he's going to have a lot of pressure because neither him nor his teammate Brian Vickers are in the chase right now. So they got to look at Clint to step up and get one of their cars into the chase.
And so with both MWR drivers on the upset team, like you mentioned, if one of them does reach a victory lane Saturday night, one person will be dancing, and that is team owner Michael Waltrip, who announced today that he'll be competing on Dancing with the Stars, which will definitely be an interesting experience, and one we'll all have to watch to see how it comes, how he does. And I'm going to go ahead with my pick, and I'm saying Brad Keselowski gets the victory lane. I think he's just so good right now, and he can really put some momentum to use and grab that victory and earn the top chase seat, because he's been one person you had to watch out for all season, and he'll definitely be strong in the chase. And I think all of his dominance that could come over the next 10 races, we're going to get a little preview of that this weekend.
Either way, if it is Clint Boyer or Brad Keselowski. Well, I guess there could be other people as well. This will be a fantastic race. It's under the lights, one of the last short track races of the NASCAR season. So I know I downplayed the drama a little bit. There will be some drama out there. You know, someone's going to get into someone and tempers will flare. Maybe we'll see Truex and Kyle Busch into each other once again. But either way, I'm excited for this weekend's race.
Thanks for listening to the Fan3Cast. For more NASCAR coverage, check out startandparkblog.com and turn4racingnews.com. Follow along on Twitter at Fan3Cast, at startandparkblog, and at NASCAR Jason.